is up, everybody? Welcome to a bonus episode of the Nerf Herder Council. This is a WTF Wednesday edition. We are going to be finishing up the first segment of the Temple of the Golden Idol Lego build that we had started on a WTF Friday a few weeks back. So it's going to be a shorter stream tonight. Anybody who wants to tune in here and chime in, we talk movies, we talk TV, anything that's on your mind on these unplanned shows. Figured I would test out a new little setup here with my camera and really try to nail down these Lego builds a little bit. So no better way to do that than by going live and seeing what comes of that. If you want to tune into the regular show, we're live every other Wednesday on many different streams. We've got a YouTube channel. We've got a Facebook page, and we are also live on Twitch. We are also a member of the Virtual Cantina Network. You can catch us there every other Wednesday night. Our normal start time is 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Usually run for about an hour and a half, depending on the topic. We'll be doing that show next Wednesday to start off the new year, and then every other Wednesday from that point on. If you want to check out any of our merch, we do have a merch store. It is shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. You can get customizable Nerf Herder Council gear. We just put up a new shirt based on a recent show of ours, so you can go ahead and check that out. I'll leave it up to you to go ahead and see what we've got up there for you, but you can pick your garment, pick your size, pick your design. We've got them all up there. We also have a Patreon page, which is patreon.com/NHC podcast. We only have 2 light tiers for now, $1 a month and $3 a month. So if you just want to help out the show a little bit, kick in a couple of bucks, you'll get some early audio access and a shout out on the live streams as well. And I think that's about all we have to cover as far as the plugs. So where we left off last time in this live build was to get through 2 of the 3 bags in the first segment of this Lego set. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue on to bag 3 and call that a night. Like I said, anyone who's in the chat, if you want to go ahead and toss in a topic, we can go ahead and talk about whatever you like to hear. Otherwise, I will just talk here tonight because what I wanted to talk about was the lightness of the slate in both TVs and movie for 2024. There's a couple different reasons why that is. But before we jump into that, I just want to go ahead and give a quick little tour here. So this is as far as we got on the build so far. We got 2 bags in. There's 3 to complete this segment. So it's the entrance to the Temple of the Golden Idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, we've got a gimmick that we're building here. Turning this knob here actually activates something in the back, but we have yet to build that something yet. So that's where we're going to pick this up. I'm going to go ahead and set this off to the side here, and I'm going to bring up the instructions so you can follow along with the build. And we've got bag 3 right here ready to go. So let's go ahead and get this started, and we'll get building. We'll get talking. So yeah, as my brother and I were going through the planning session, trying to figure out what the slate was looking like for our show in 2024, something that we realized was that the slate for what we usually cover, which is usually like Marvel and primarily Star Wars stuff on this channel, is pretty light, not nearly as dense as we've gotten used to in the previous couple of years. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. First off, obviously, is the SAG-AFTRA strike, as it happened earlier this year. That definitely hurt production timelines and pushed a lot of things back. So that's one reason for the lightness of the slate. But I think the other, and frankly, far more compelling reason is that we've got a bit of a reset going on in the TV and movie landscape. You know, we had this glut of streaming content come out with like Disney Plus and everything, and we had multiple streaming shows, and every studio wanted its own streaming service, so Netflix wouldn't get all the money for having all the things on streaming, which is all well and good, but then everybody else found out exactly how expensive it is to run these services, and then all of a sudden they went into cost-cutting mode and didn't want so many shows to be produced. One of my favorite franchises, Star Trek, it famously launched Paramount Plus and had stated that their goal was to have a new episode of Star Trek on every week of the year. Basically, they had enough shows running concurrently and had staggered the release schedules in such a way that they were able to go ahead and almost get that done. They only had, I think, like 3 weeks in 2022 where there wasn't a new episode of Star Trek on. I mean, otherwise it was like they said, nonstop. And that all sounds well and good, but that is a huge investment in producing content. And the money just wasn't there for the studios. They really didn't think through how they were going to translate all that cost for content creation into revenue through the new subscribers, and how to keep existing subscribers tuning in. I mean, Star Trek kind of had it right, at least with this idea of, putting out new episodes all the time, because what a lot of people do is they'll start up a trial subscription. Nice Belloc, by the way. Love this. Lego does such a great job with their figures. They really nail the essence of the characters. It's really cool. Also, for as much as Lego says that their rule is they'll never do realistic firearms, that's pretty realistic firearm, don't you think? Yeah. So we'll go ahead and set Belloc over there. And we have some sort of indigenous warrior, we'll call him. I don't know what Lego would refer to him as, but I ain't touching that one. This is a public stream, and I don't need to get skewered on X. But yeah, so this idea that, this constant stream of content would be a good idea. Sounded great, and we got a ton of content from it. Sometimes to the detriment of the quality, looking at you, Marble. But we were really spoiled for shows and stuff. As a classic Star Wars fan, for example, we were used to a movie every 3 years, and that was it. And then we got the Clone Wars television series, and that at least upped the pace a little bit, so we had a season of television every year. Well, then you get into the streaming era, and it's like light speed, right? They went from just a simple we've got one show running to we've got multiple shows running per year, and the studios are trying to keep movies, especially Marvel was trying to keep movies and streaming alive at the same time, so they're cranking out a ton of content. And I think the studios finally just realized how unsustainable that was, because the revenue that they were bringing in was not justifying the cost of producing all this stuff. So we did a show recently about superhero fatigue, and I think what we've come down to is that it's not really superhero fatigue, it's just bad story fatigue. So if the stuff had been of the quality of, say, everything up through Endgame in the Marvel universe, then no one would be fatigued on it. But the stuff that they cranked out was just wasn't very good. So I think that was a bit of a reckoning, actually, in terms of quality on the side of Marvel. And then you had things like Max doing the same thing, where they would, they took Batgirl, for example, a movie that was completed, and actually refused to release it because of, I don't know, it's some sort of a tax write-off for a loss or something. So they're finishing movies and then not even releasing them because it's, for them, cheap. It's a better financial move to not release it and take it as a write-off than it is to try to recoup any of that, like I said, through subscriber revenue. So it's a very different place that we find these content producers and these studios in come 2024. Another example, famously, is Star Trek again. Going back to Star Trek, Paramount Plus had a series where they had 20 episodes for season 2 of this animated show, greenlit and about 90 to 95% through production, and then Paramount pulled the plug on the show. Not only did they pull the plug on the show so that second season wouldn't ever see the light of day, but they also removed the first season that had finished airing for cost-cutting reasons as well. So it's not just a matter of losing content that would have been produced, but it's losing content that already was produced too. So not a good look all the way around. Fortunately, Netflix swooped in and picked up that show. So that second season will be completed. And it will be airing on Netflix sometime in 2024, along with season 1 getting restored on Netflix as well. But I just really think it's interesting how these studios jumped into the streaming game without really a clear understanding of the business model, and they just wanted to basically take money out of Netflix's pocket by any means necessary. But what they ended up doing as a result is making their camera blurry, and then they have to do the old autofocus trick to get it back again. Thanks for chiming in there, Mimar. Good to see you. Camera's a good setup. Need a constant stream of content. Yes. And that's kind of the problem is we're spoiled. We're spoiled to the point where now, like, we look at the 2024 slate and there's so much less coming out than what we're used to. And while on one hand, I hope it's a return to form as far as like the quality that we get, it is going to be an adjustment to go back to these, slower content drips where we don't get, in Marvel's case, like 5 series or 3 movies, and they're going back to right now, thanks to reshuffling of everything. Deadpool 3 is the only Marvel movie on the slate for next year, and they kind of speed dropped What If season 2 to get it all out. They're doing 1 episode per day leading up to the end of the year, and I can only imagine that has something to do with accounting, because why they would produce an entire season of television like that and then rush it out the door, not quite all at once, but almost all at once, and make sure that it wraps up before 2024. It's got to be some sort of financial thing. So you got that, and then I think Echo is the only other Marvel series that's set to debut on Disney Plus next year, where originally they had a whole bunch of other stuff that was going to come out as well. But they kind of realized that the quality was suffering so bad that it just wasn't worth cranking the stuff out like they had been. And I'm glad they realized that. I'm really glad they finally came around and realized that what fans really want is good stuff more than more stuff. So hopefully the people creating this stuff can get more time to create quality products. We can get better stories and all that kind of stuff. But we really do need to reset our expectations and realize that we're not going to have the glut of stuff to watch like we used to. And I think that's interesting. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think in the comment section about that. Like, based on the sort of stuff that we have been seeing from, like I said, Max and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus, scaling back their releases for next year. Do you think that's a good thing? Would you prefer to have less content but higher quality, presumably? Or do you think the current quality is just fine and there's actually no reason to slow up production? Personally, I come down on the side of quality over quantity, because we're still going to be, it's an embarrassment of riches compared to what we're used to in the pre-streaming days, right? Where we'd be lucky to get, like I said, in case of Star Wars, a movie every 3 years, and then 1 season of the Clone Wars per year. So even with the reduced slate and things getting shuffled around due to the SAG-AFTRA strike, Star Wars has still a bunch of stuff. We've got, I think the Acolyte's coming next year. Skeleton Crew is coming next year. We've got season 3 of the Bad Batch, presumably. So there's 3 shows right there that we've got. And that's so much more than we ever got previous to this. So to say that, we're somehow being robbed of stuff and there's not enough going on there to hold fans' interest, I think we're just spoiled at this point. I mean, what more do you want? You've got so much more to take in than you had before. And the good news is, at least in the case of Star Wars, the teams working on those are in communication with each other, which is better than the Marvel teams. And they're also siloed enough that no one team is getting too burnt out by producing this content. So I think Star Wars is in good shape. The one thing that they don't have going for them, unfortunately, is their film slate. I think Star Wars needs to be on the big screen, and it's really unfortunate that 2024 is going to be 5 years since the Rise of Skywalker. So the last Star Wars feature film outing is going to be 5 years old before we even have a chance to hear anything about when the next one might happen. We've gotten, descriptions of movies and general ideas of the plots, but we still don't know when these things are happening. Like, everyone's assuming that the first one out the gate is going to be Rey's new Jedi Order movie, but that hasn't actually been confirmed by any official sources, and we still don't know when that's going to happen. What we do know is that it's definitely not in front of cameras yet, so it hasn't even begun production or filming. And post-production on these things tends to be at least a 12 to 18-month process. So I wouldn't expect to see a Star Wars feature film until either summer of 2025 or probably, they seem to like this Christmas window. So we're looking at Christmas of 2025 now, at the earliest, to get a new Star Wars movie. And that's, frankly, it's a long time. And then you go over to the Marvel side of things, and like I said, the only Marvel movie coming out is Deadpool 3 next year. And getting so used to 2, if not 3 different Marvel releases every year, that's a marked change in strategy for them. Now, I think based on a lot of external factors, unfortunately, with Marvel, they need to take a breather. Not only did they kind of burn themselves out and the quality showed in the crunch that all the CGI artists and whatnot were under, but you also had the reshuffling of schedules due to release slates and stuff like that. And then you get the whole mess with Jonathan Majors, who plays Kang, being convicted of domestic abuse charges. So he's off. He's been officially fired. So now they have to pivot away from their big bad for Avengers 5 and presumably 6. Avengers 5 officially has no title now. It was once called the Kang Dynasty, and now it's just Avengers 5. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff shifting under Marvel's feet right now. So I think it's a good time for them to step back and take a breather, come up with a fresh plan, and hopefully, get at least somewhat close. I don't know if they're going to quite match, but get somewhat close to the quality level that they were known for all this time. I think they finally realized, fans have spoken loud enough, that they're not just going to accept any old piece of crap that comes out from Marvel Studios just because it has, the Marvel logo attached to it, which I think is good. I think fans, one thing we know for sure is we've had enough of this stuff by now, that fans are being more discerning than they used to be. And I think that's important because this idea of fandom having to accept whatever is given to them, it's diminishing returns. It's a race to the bottom. We're more in a content world than a storytelling world now, where it does need to be more and more stuff coming out to hold audiences' attention and keep that pace of development going. And yet I don't think that's beneficial to anybody. So it'll be interesting to see when this whole reset is complete, what Marvel's approach looks like going forward, what Paramount's approach looks like going forward. Because over on the Paramount Plus side, like I said, they're the streaming home of Star Trek, and they proudly advertised that they had all these series in development at once. And like I said, every week of the year there's going to be a new episode of Star Trek was the original plan, and they're pivoting away from that to where now there is only upcoming for 2024. We've got the final season of Star Trek Discovery. Maybe later in the year, hopefully, we might get Strange New Worlds season 3, but that's not a guarantee because they were very much affected by the SAG-AFTRA strike. So filming is going to begin at some point on season 3. Not exactly sure when yet. And then you've got a couple of other things going on too. They're doing a what they call a long trek, which is basically a movie of the week sort of thing for one of the projects that was initially going to be a series. And that's about it. So Star Trek is also resetting. They haven't officially canceled Prodigy now that it's on Netflix or will be on Netflix in 2024. I guess technically you can count that as new Star Trek, but it's not going on Paramount Plus. So even that together, you've only got, and presumably Lower Decks season 5 will show up. So we've got 3 series of Star Trek down from 5. And one of those things is, like I said, it's like a made for TV movie. So very different strategy out of Paramount. They're realizing that the cost of all this stuff is way too expensive to produce. Now I'm going to take a minute and talk Lego here for a second, because I'll be honest, I'm a little lost on exactly where all of this stuff goes at the moment. We've got this mechanism here. I think if I'm reading this right, I think the way to line this up is to put the armature I just created, thread it through here. If my camera would focus on the right thing, there we go. So these things have to overlap, and then there is this tan piece right here that is going to slot in here and pin through the light gray armature that's already on the build. You know, I love Technic mechanisms, but sometimes the instructions don't make these things quite clear enough. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me for the live stream here tonight. If you've got anything you want to talk about, go ahead and put it in the chat. We will get to it. Right now, the current topic is the content / film slate from various studios for 2024, and how it's going to be a leaner year than years past. Okay, this is cool. I'm not exactly sure how all this geometry works, but that's why Lego designers get paid the big bucks. So what we've just done is we've created an armature that is now linked to a track. And as I'm manipulating that on that side, remember, it's still connected to this knob here. So now, turning this knob rolls this thing up and down. And I think yeah, the whole purpose of this whole thing right here is just to keep it locked into this groove. So pretty ingenious little mechanism, but boy, not obvious at the outset of how that's going to work. All right, moving on. So we got a couple of viewers here. We got our usual Twitch ghost, and I believe that might still be Mimar hanging out on YouTube there. Thank you for keeping us company here. So I'd like to know, based on the limited content slate for 2024, with the way everything's been shifted around between studios, what are you looking most forward to? And if there's anything that you're actually glad got bumped for maybe a 2025 release date or something, put that one in the chat there too. Let's see what you guys want to talk about and come up with. As for me, we've talked about this on the main show. Deadpool 3 definitely going to be a highlight of 2023, I think. You just can't go wrong. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. He plays that character so well. So I think that's going to be an amazing time for everybody. I really truly hope that the interruptions in production didn't, screw anything up with how the end product turns out. You can never be too sure. But I mean, Ryan Reynolds is consummate professional, and this is his baby. This is his cash cow. He loves this character. I don't think that they're going to shit the bed on this one. They probably had a solid plan going into it. My only concern with Deadpool 3 is that this one has to work within the larger scope of the MCU in the multiverse. And that might be to its detriment because it already dabbled with the idea and kind of made fun of it with its whole coexistence within the Fox X-Men universe prior to the acquisition by Disney. So technically they were already kind of on this multiverse track like the MCU is now, but it wasn't really so pivotal to the story. It was more just Deadpool breaking the fourth wall. Whereas now it seems like they're going to have to find a way, and they're going to try to find a way for Deadpool's fourth wall breaking to make sense within the landscape of the Marvel multiverse. And that's dangerous because so far the multiverse has not been well received by fans. So hopefully, like I said, with a little bit of a reset, maybe they can go ahead and write better stories that kind of get people on board, especially now that they seem to have dropped Kang as the big bad. So we're poised for a reset in the story anyway. And hopefully not just a reset in the story, but in the storytelling. So whatever they do come up with as a new plan for this whole multiverse saga, it's got to be better than what they gave us. Because even if there wasn't any problems with the actor playing Kang, the stories just weren't clicking at all. And they seem to have been ready to move on from Kang because it seems pretty apparent that spoilers for Loki season 2, they're considering that whole storyline kind of dealt with at this point, because there was only an offhand mention of the events of Ant-Man Quantumania in there, and it certainly wasn't said with any high regard like, oh, this was an important thing. In fact, that was the whole point, was that it wasn't important. It was a blip on the radar, so to speak. So I think Kang went out with a whimper, and we're going to be building up some new big bad, and that has yet to be seen who that's going to be. Now, one thing I wonder with the whole multiverse thing, they did come out with What If Season 2. And, of course, What If Season 1 dealt heavily with the multiverse. Didn't seem so important at the time. Just felt like, okay, well, it's a handy storytelling device to say that the cartoon ties in with the live action stuff, but it doesn't necessarily have to. It was just a nice way to introduce the possibilities. So if they wanted to pull on that thread and bring those cartoon alternate characters into live action, they could do so. Now with What If Season 2 taking place right in the heart of the multiverse saga, I wonder how much of that might be used as a jumping off point to do a little bit of course correction on the live action storytelling. Because as much as my brother rightfully states that it can be a little bit of a get out of jail free card with the multiverse thing, you can just kill off any character you want and then just go get another one from another variant universe. The other thing that it does, though, in doing so, is it, if they have made any missteps with characters, they can go ahead and correct those by pulling in what if versions. And it's entirely possible that they might do something like that. Doctor Strange is featured very prominently. His was one of the most interesting and detailed episodes in the first season of What If. And looks like some of those story threads from season 1 are going to be pulled forward into season 2. We've already seen it with one episode that was actually supposed to be in season 1, and it just didn't get completed in time. So they held it off and had to kind of re-edit the finale of season 1 because they had a couple of characters in there that were supposed to be from a previous episode and weren't, because that episode did not, like I said, get completed in time to be included in season 1. So they put it in season 2, which was cool. But they've had to jump through some hoops even in the animated universe to make all the Marvel timeline stuff line up. So we'll see. I mean, I think some of the what if characters are actually a lot of fun and could actually work pretty well in live action. The one thing that worries me is it also does open the door for them to maybe bring back some dead characters or some original characters that they had let, you know, pass on or age out, like Robert Downey Jr., for example, as Iron Man. Um, and I really don't want to. I don't want to see that. I don't. It's like, you know, I'm a pro wrestling fan, and it's like when WWE would always like have a drop in the ratings, and then all of a sudden, oh, Undertaker's back, or John Cena's back, or here's a cameo by Hulk Hogan, or you know, it's just a rating spike for ratings sake because they didn't want to wait for their current projects to bear fruit, so to speak. And I think that's extremely short sighted if they do something like that and just rely on all the phase 1 through 3 characters to come back in some way, shape, or form, and you know, save the box office and save the storylines, because that might be good temporarily, just to, you know, get a quick shot in the arm and say that, you know, the MCU is back. Look at all the box office, but it doesn't set them up for the future because there's only so long that you can get these people to do this. You know, they've already had to deal with you know, like Guardians 3, for example, where Dave Bautista is just like, look, man, being Drax is a pain in my ass, and I don't want to do it anymore. So you can only rest on your laurels, and everybody who does these Marvel characters has to be in like such incredible shape that it's frankly like Hugh Jackman having to get back into Wolverine shape is just insane, considering he's actually bigger and maybe more cut now than he was back when he was actually playing the character in those original X-Men movies. And you just can't keep up that kind of regimen. So if they're going to expect, you know, Chris Evans to, you know, get back and stay in Captain America shape or something, it's just not a realistic thing. They've got to find some way to move on from those original characters that are now 10 to 15 years older and get newer characters that just resonate with fans better. So we'll see what they do with that. Um, as I've been filibustering here, it's becoming apparent that what we're actually building here is a giant rock. And I kind of knew that from the box already, but um, I love these moments of discovery when you're building a Lego set that, you know, you're building some anonymous stuff and you're like, I don't know what the hell this is, or maybe you just zone out because so focused on the sub assemblies that you're not even thinking about how that might translate into something more. So what we've got is 5 sides of a cube, but a very round cube at that. So I think we've got our giant boulder here. And we do. So if you look at the instructions here, we're going to take all of this minus my bonus pieces. I'll move those off to the side over here. We're going to take all of this and we're going to mount our giant rock onto this axle here. So that center piece goes right onto here. And there we go. Giant boulder. Oh, and look at that. It locks nicely in place up there. So it's locked in place. It's not falling. There's a little detent. And then, oh, it's like a counterweight. Okay, I get it. That's awesome. Okay, so it's locked in place. Now the one bummer, and I wonder if I should just like rotate this knob a little bit, because in its locked upright position, this thing is all cattywampus. But um, check this out. Like it takes a little bit of a detent, and then its own momentum will make it roll down, but not too fast. That is genius. Oh, that is so cool. All right. So we've got our first gimmick, our first mechanism done. Let's do this one more time from the front here. Let's see what this angle looks like. Well, first off, don't break the base off, stupid. That wasn't exactly brilliant on my part. So let's rebuild that real quick. All right, now looking at this from the front, trigger the mechanism. Boulder comes down. Doesn't quite smash like through the opening. It gets stopped right there, but definitely room for people to go inside. I think that they're all safe and sound. And then, oh, giant rock. Okay, perfect. That is really cool. See, this is the perfect use of Technic, in my opinion. I'm not a big Lego Technic builder guy, but I do love the mechanisms and stuff that you can create with them. So when you can augment a good system set with actual like regular brick built stuff like this, and then build in cool little features, like this, that's the perfect use of Technic, in my opinion. I don't think Technic is very aesthetically pleasing, but it can definitely get the job done when it comes to the mechanisms and add like real life to these Lego models. Love it. Okay, so that is the end of bag 3. We're gonna stop the build right there for now. I'll be back with another WTF Friday or WTF Thursday or whenever the hell I feel like, honestly. We'll continue building the Lego Temple of the Golden Idol set as we move on. Do have a couple of other things in the works as far as Lego builds go. These WTF Friday Lego building sessions actually started with fan design kits, and I've got 2 on the way. Classic Star Wars stuff returning to form on that. Back here on my shelf, I've got an AT, and I almost said AT-AT, oof, AT-ST that is a fan design. I've got a Razor Crest that's a fan design up there. I've got an N1 Starfighter, Mandalorian's N1 Starfighter specifically, that is a fan design as well. Harder to see, but down here, if I get my big head out of the way, a TIE Interceptor that is a fan design, and down below out of frame is a TIE Bomber that is a fan design as well. Oh, and how can I forget? My giant Lego Mandalorian over there is also a fan design. The helmet is not. The helmet is the Lego Mandalorian helmet, but the body is a fan design. So clearly you can tell I'm a fan of doing the fan design kits as much as I can. And I happen to have here, I mentioned the TIE Interceptor and TIE Bomber. I already have here, pre-sorted, ready to go, all the pieces for the OG TIE Fighter. So we can round out the original trilogy TIE series here on WTF Lego Builds. And also on the way are all the pieces for the fan design X-Wing that would be the minifig scale counterpart to that TIE Fighter. So we've got a couple good builds coming up on the WTF series. Stay posted to us on our socials for when those things are going to be done. Usually we give a little bit more advance warning, but this one is just, I had originally intended to get all 3 bags of this segment done on the first stream, and we only got through 2. So I couldn't stand looking at that anymore in its unfinished state. So I had to get this one out the door. But yeah, we'll be posting. We are available on Twitter at NHC Podcast. You can also follow us, like I said, on Facebook. We got a YouTube channel, and we also are posting a lot more on Patreon now. Frankly, our WordPress setup that runs our website has been nothing but trouble. So Patreon is going to be the main source of information that would normally come out of our website. So that is patreon.com/NHC Podcast. Stay tuned to that, and we will make announcements for upcoming shows on that platform and on Twitter as well. And once again, our regular shows are every other Wednesday starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be live next Wednesday night at that time, and then every other Wednesday from that point on. We're always doing at least 1 Star Wars show per month, maybe 2 if there's something more newsworthy going on. So we'll see how that goes. We've got a lot of great ideas in the works for 2024, guys. So please tune in. Support us if you can. Give a like to the video. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Give a thumbs up and a like on the Facebook post if you can, please. Anything that helps spread the word, because this is a live show. We thrive on the live chat and anything you guys want to talk about. So the more you guys can boost that algorithm for us, the more we're all going to have more fun with this. We got some great ideas in store for 2024 for additional shows and additional content for our Patreon campaigns as well. So if you have any ideas or things you'd like to see for that, by all means, hit us up on our socials. You can email us, nerfherdercouncil@gmail.com. send us your ideas, and we'd love to hear from you guys. So in the meantime, I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday break. We're going to be coming out of it here next week. So be safe on New Year's. If you're going to be drinking too much, then make sure you're staying put wherever you're doing it. Be safe on the roads. And we will catch you guys in 2024. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you soon.